Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And the Gamers Holiday is back on. Let's go, because a new Nintendo Direct was indeed confirmed today. Of course, we talked a little bit about this yesterday with all those rumors and everything, but we will go over its new official details today and also some of my own personal predictions. I believe we could be in store for an exciting event if some of this stuff turns out to be true, and I will explain why. Also, for you Xbox Game Pass subscribers, that service continues to deliver with 7 new June titles, including, yes, another interesting day one inclusion. You have to love it, as well as a game that hasn't been around all that long, and I think fans are really going to enjoy this lineup. As always, though, before we get started, do hit those buttons below. It really does help the channel a ton. I greatly do appreciate it. Just thank you so very much for your support. But other than that, let's just kind of go and get right into things. Starting off with, unfortunately, a delay. I think gamers are kind of used to delays anymore. I mean, to be fair, though, I think we have seen a slowdown in delays at the very least compared to the last couple of years. But nonetheless, the new promising EA original title, Immortals of Aveum, has now officially been pushed from July 20th to August 22nd. So only about a month-long delay. Really not too bad at all if you're looking forward to this game. The reason behind the delay, though, as they put it, was that this will give us time to further polish the game, finish optimizing all platforms, and to deliver a strong launch. So I imagine they must have spotted some kind of issue ahead of its launch that they need to fix up before release. Either that or they're just kind of scrambling to get things ready for launch. I hope that's not the case here. I know there's some people out there keeping their eyes on this game. It does look interesting, but if you are interested in Immortals of Aveum, go ahead and mark your calendars for now, August 22nd. Oh, and we've been hearing a lot about Final Fantasy here recently. It definitely seems like Square Enix is hedging a lot on this franchise with the likes of Final Fantasy 16. That's right around the corner. Let's go. They also have the Final Fantasy 7 remakes, and then also, of course, Final Fantasy 14 as well. But based on some different rumors that are kind of floating around right now, this might only be the beginning. It sounds like both Final Fantasy 9 and maybe even Final Fantasy 10 could have some remakes coming in the next few years. And now there's also discussion to be had regarding Final Fantasy 6, as Square Enix at the very least has some internal interest in a remake. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that they're working on a Final Fantasy 6 remake just yet, but this is coming from the Final Fantasy brand manager, Yoshinori Kitase, and while he was asked about a 6 remake at a roundtable discussion, this is what he had to say. I think Final Fantasy VI Remake would be difficult. Final Fantasy VII Remake is not yet finished, so I'm not able to think about it. But for Final Fantasy VI, there are many Final Fantasy VI fans inside the company, and they often ask me, when are we making 6? So, I mean, what this kind of tells you is that they're probably not going to remake 6 with him until they finish up with 7 first. So don't expect this title to come anytime soon. But interestingly enough, though, there does seem to be some internal interest in remaking 6. And that does bode very well that they'll at least explore this idea sometime in the future at the bare minimum. At the same time, though, I mean, he is correct that it would be difficult to remake 6 compared to some of the other newer games. While the overall story is epic, it's masterful in a lot of ways. Some will even say that 6 is the best entry in the entire franchise. But however, there are parts in 6 that would almost be impossible to remake as the story stands currently. Just as 2 examples that I can think of right off the top of my head, there's that part where the castle transforms and then just like submerges into the desert. That would be quite hard to recreate. And then of course the famous train suplex scene. Everybody kind of knows about that one, but these are things that might not translate perfectly into a new 3D game. Now, I guess that they could do a HD remaster. That's also a possible scenario here. Though I think for fans, they would much prefer a full-on remake in a similar vein as Final Fantasy VII. I definitely think that there's some potential here if they were to do that. But either way, we're still years and years away before it's even probably going to be a possibility. Let's go and talk about Nintendo, though, because I know a lot of you are excited about the new Nintendo Direct. And for good reason. It is officially set for June 21st at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, so it's going to be a little early tomorrow morning, depending on where you're located. Go ahead and set your alarms for that. And yes, and here's the important part, this is a big general Nintendo Direct. That's what everybody was hoping for, and it is now confirmed. It will be 40 minutes long, focused on Nintendo Switch games launching this year, including, of course, Pikmin 4, which is, that's going to be cool to see. I do like the Pikmin series myself, and this will be another opportunity for it to shine in front of a big audience before its official release. But the question for Nintendo fans right now is not necessarily about Pikmin. What fans really want to know and what they want answered at this Direct is what is beyond Pikmin 4. Because currently, we basically know nothing. There's just this huge gap for the rest of this year, and that constant question is kind of loomed. Is this really it for the Nintendo Switch? Well, we should get our answer tomorrow, and this very well could be the Switch Swan Song lineup, the last big hurrah for the Nintendo Switch, and I think that last push actually has a lot of potential. Now, I don't expect some colossal announcement here in the same veins of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, but we keep hearing about how Nintendo is holding on to all of these B and C tier games for the right time to release them, and well, right now might be the perfect time as we kind of transition into the Switch successor, which I firmly believe will launch next year in 2024. Now, with that said, actually, should you expect a hardware reveal at this Direct? And I'm going to go and stop you right there. Absolutely not. It makes zero sense, to announce the Switch successor in June unless it gets a surprise release in 2023, which I just don't foresee myself. Now, maybe they come out and surprise me, but I would be shocked if they mentioned a new console here. This showcase will more than likely be strictly focused on software releasing this year, as Nintendo already said in their own announcement. However, what's some games that they could announce here, though? And, well, if you look around, we might have an idea as to some potential announcements. There are lots, and I mean lots, of rumors floating around, some of which are coming from some rather credible sources. And let's start off with those. So the first one here is a new 2D Mario game. This is the one that everybody's kind of expecting by this point. This is coming from Pyoro, which has accurately leaked several things here recently, and they claim that a new 2D Mario game will be announced here, and that is not a part of the new Super Mario Bros. Series. Now, if this is true, I am kind of curious as to how Nintendo will differentiate this new entry compared to some of the previous 2D iterations. Maybe it's just a different art style, 2.5D or something like that, but for me personally, I'm more interested in the gameplay. Are they going to do something different? And that's the thing about Nintendo. I mean, they're very creative companies, so I'm curious as to what they're cooking up with a new 2D Mario entry if this turns out to be true. Now, Pyoro is also teasing a Super Nintendo remake. I've seen a lot of guesses as to what this could be. Chrono Trigger seems to be one of the more popular guesses here, and then also Super Mario RPG. I think both of those actually make some sense in the current Square Enix Nintendo development cycle. These are both games that could fit the HD 2D re-releases, where Nintendo and Square Enix has had a rather fruitful relationship together. It would make a lot of sense for them to kind of continue that partnership with something like, let's say, Chrono Trigger or maybe even Super Mario RPG. Beyond that, though, Pyoro also made some other tweets about Yoshi and even Detective Pikachu. It's hard to say if these are hints or if they're just kind of trolling by this point. I will say this. We do know that Detective Pikachu 2 is in development. It's been in development for a very, very long time, so an announcement is plausible. Though, I'm always a little bit hesitant in getting my hopes up for a Pokemon announcement at a Nintendo Direct, just because they usually save those announcements for Pokemon Presents. Still, though, it is a game that's worth keeping an eye on at the very least, which actually takes me to some of these other rumors. Some other games you might want to keep an eye on. Now, these other games are just kind of rumors that's been circulating for a while now. We keep hearing about GameCube re-releases, and if any of these rumors are actually true, this here would be the perfect time to announce them. Get these games out during a transition year. They would still garner a lot of excitement because they're great games. They stand the test of time, and it would allow Nintendo to push some of their bigger releases over to the Switch successor. Now, there's 4 specific re-releases that we keep hearing about, though. One is Paper Mario, A Thousand Year Door, then F-Zero GX, and then lastly, Metroid Prime 2 and Metroid Prime 3. A lot of people are currently talking about Paper Mario and F-Zero GX right now, rightfully so. I hope that these games do exist. I do, however, question if both Paper Mario and Mario RPG would be at the same showcase, as it seems like some are predicting. I don't think that that will happen. It would be odd for them to announce 2 turn-based RPGs like this. If one of these games show up, I think it's only going to be one or the other, and for me, I'd much prefer Paper Mario. I do adore that series. But Metroid Prime 2 and Metroid Prime 3, these are my sleeper hit announcements here. Of course, they just released Metroid Prime Remastered earlier this year, but a big part of the rumor leading into that announcement was that Metroid Prime 2 and Metroid Prime 3 are also coming, but with a staggered release. Now, they also apparently won't be full-on remakes like we got with Metroid Prime 1, but maybe they'll announce one or maybe even both of these games tomorrow. Hey, maybe even another shadow launch. We really can't rule that out. I imagine they'll also reveal the next wave of Mario Kart 8 content. Of course, that's a big game for them. And then for my last first-party prediction, I think we'll get another Mario sports game. I mean, if you look at the last 2 years, they've released Mario Golf during the summer of 2021, and then Mario Strikers during the summer of 2022 as well. So I think they're going to kind of continue that streak here with a new Mario Baseball game. I think that we will get Mario Baseball for the summer of 2023, which is actually a really fun series if you've ever played it before. So I think just for their first-party announcements alone, there's a lot of potential here. And this isn't even really talking about possible third-party announcements. And we talked about it yesterday, but Persona 3 Reload, that is looking highly possible as well. So if anything, we should hopefully be in for a fun time tomorrow. I mean, let's go. I am excited for this. Hopefully we get some really cool announcements tomorrow. But do let me hear your predictions in the comments below. Now, we also got some Xbox Game Pass news as well, because why not? You subscribers continue to be just absolutely spoiled, because check this out. 7 more games are headed your way this June, including Bramble the Mountain King, Fist Forged in Shadow Torch, Need for Speed Unbound, Arcade Paradise, Story of Seasons, Sword and Fairy, and then last but not least, The Bookwalker. Now, the big headline game here is Need for Speed Unbound. This is the one that's going to catch a lot of attention online. It released last year and got solid overall reviews, but this is a uniquely designed racing game. Yes, it's another Need for Speed, but it's Need for Speed with style. It has a very comic book anime-esque art style to it, and it really pops off screen. You can design your own avatar, and even the racing itself has some cool stylized visuals to it. I really like how this game pops off the screen and just tries to be its own thing. It separates itself from games like Forza Horizon as an example. You're going to get a different experience here with Need for Speed Unbound. If you do like racing games, though, definitely give Unbound a try when it comes to Xbox Game Pass on June 22nd. My highlight of this lineup, though, sits with The Bookwalker. This is another Day 1 launch title. You have to love it. And this is another uniquely designed game. It has a very interesting concept where you play as a writer turned thief, and he has this ability where he can jump into books and their worlds. So he's jumping into some of these legendary books and tales, and then he attempts to steal the most renowned items in the world, things like Thor's hammer and even the Excalibur. It also looks like he has the ability to take items from the real world into these books, which will help him solve various puzzles. Like I said, it's a very interesting and creative concept. I am quite intrigued by this game. So if anything, this could be a sleeper hit here. It's not necessarily getting a lot of attention right now, but let's just go and change that and maybe give it a try when it launches. Also on June 22nd. Apparently that's going to be a very busy day for Xbox Game Pass. Now, another game here, though, that stands out is Fist Forged in Shadow Torch. We actually already know for a fact that this game is good. This is one of the better received Metroidvanias on the market right now, with an 80 overall score on Metacritic. It also has an 89% approval rating on Steam. It's continuously praised for things like its atmosphere, its combat, and world. So if you like Metroidvanias, as I very much do, you're definitely going to want to check this one out on June 27th. So overall, I mean, I'd say that this is a pretty solid lineup here. You get a big AAA racer, you get an interesting day one title, and also a known quality Metroidvania. A little bit of everything here. And hey, if you want to slow things down with a life simulator where you can farm in a charming little village, you can even try Story of Seasons, Friends of Mineral Town on June 29th. Yeah, a little bit of everything for the rest of June. Speaking of Xbox, though, let's go and take a look at the poll of the day, where I asked you all, do you think Xbox should invest in VR? Well, it looks like most of you all agree with Matt Booty's recent statement, because 78% of you said no, while only 16% said yes. Now, I did notice in the comments that a few of you mentioned that maybe they should team up with a third-party company to do VR. Maybe they should team up with somebody like Oculus or Valve. And I think that that's a good point and everything. Maybe they could get VR working on Xbox. But I think as a first-party publisher, I agree with the 78% here. While it would be cool for them to get a third-party VR headset working on Xbox, I don't think that Xbox as a first-party company should make their own headset, as I don't think the technology is quite there for the mass market. And I also don't think that they should invest development resources for VR games either. I think that their focus needs to remain on Xbox, PC, and Game Pass. They're still kind of trying to prove their first-party output and everything, and, VR could detract from that, as it would take resources away from their current studios. So despite myself liking VR, I am with the majority on this one. I prefer Xbox to just do what they're currently doing. And hey, based on that recent showcase, it looks like they're doing a pretty good job at that. So let's continue on with more of that in the future. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget to pound the notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.